I'm Neil Kardos with Harity with a couple tips to make your patent applications easier to read. For a software or process-based invention, I typically have a set of figures that show the step-by-step details of the invention. I call these the invention detail figures. And then I have a separate figure that shows all the devices involved with the invention. And I call this the device environment figure. So tip number one is to give the devices descriptive names so that the reader doesn't have to guess what the devices do. For example, a name like authentication device for a device that performs authentication. That way, every time the reader encounters that device in the text, they get a quick refresher of what that device does. And then tip number two is to separate your description of what the devices do from what the devices are. So here's an example. When you're telling the story of the invention in the invention detail figures, you might say something like, well, there's a user device that provides some login credentials to an authentication device. For good readability, this is not the place to wander off on a tangent and say, oh, by the way, the user device could be a desktop computer or a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone or a wearable device or this other long list of things. And oh, by the way, the authentication device could be this or that or the other thing. If you do that, you've interrupted the flow of the patent application, which makes it more difficult to read. Instead, I recommend that you focus on what the devices do, the steps of the process, in the invention detail figures, and then focus on what the devices are, including all the different options and alternatives in the device environment figure. Thanks for watching.